Hello guys and welcome back to Exposure Academy. So I also welcome in my Cooper summary series, and in this we are going to start with the 17th chapter, that is the cell signaling. So already we have talked about the cell cycle, and related to that we are continuing with the cell signaling. Okay. Okay, so all cells receive and respond to signals from their environment. So that is true, right? Because whenever we respond, one second. Um, yeah, one second, something is okay. So whenever we respond to the environment, it is in the form of the signals, like by the action of the smell, or by touch, or by hearing the sounds which is coming from the environment, like, right? So even the simplest bacteria can sense and swim towards the high concentration of nutrients such as glucose and amino acids. And guys, we know that that is also known as chemotaxis, right? Okay, so many bacteria and unicellular eukaryotes also respond to signaling molecules which is secreted by the other cells, and this will allow the cell-cell communication. जैसे हम एक दूसरे से बात करते हैं या टच करते हैं या एक दूसरे की आवाज सुनते हैं and then we respond, right? That is our way of communication. In the same way, the cells are also responding to the other cells via via secreting different molecules. And when these molecules go and bind to the receptors which are present on these cells, this is in a way interacting with the cells. Mating between yeast cells, for example, it is signaled by the peptides that are secreted by one cell and bind to the receptors on the surface of the another. Okay? So these are the different examples. Now, signaling molecules and the receptors. So let's talk about these signaling molecules. So they vary from different size, and different kinds are available. So you can have organic molecules also. You can also have peptides acting as the signaling molecules, or you can also have gas molecules as acting as the signaling molecules. For example, NO, O2, etc. So they also varies in size, structure, and polarity, of course. Structurally, the signaling molecules used by plants and animals, they range in complexity from simple gases to proteins. So some of these molecules carry signals over long distance, whereas others act locally to convey information between neighboring cells. ये तो हमारे जैसे हो गया, अगर हम सामने हैं तो हम डायरेक्टली बात कर सकते हैं, अगर दूर है तो हम वया फोन कॉल बात करते हैं, राइट? इन द सेम वे, अब सेल्स कैसे अपने मॉलिक्यूल्स सेंड करेंगे? If suppose you're talking about the human system, then the long distance signaling molecules are spreaded with the help of the your blood circulation. ठीक है? और अगर आप गैस मॉलिक्यूल्स की बात कर रहे हैं तो it depends on the diffusion rate in which it is secreted out. So depending on the environment, the different signaling molecules are spread. In addition, the signaling molecules differ in their mode of action on the target cell, of course. So some signaling molecules are able to cross the plasma membrane. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? Those signaling molecules are going to be hydrophobic in nature, and then they can bind to the intracellular receptors which is present in the cytoplasm or the nucleus. Whereas most bind to the receptors which is expressed on the target cell surface. So guys, in this case, for example, let us say that this is the plasma membrane. If it is able to cross, it means that those molecules are hydrophobic in nature. क्योंकि we know that your plasma membrane is having hydrophobicity. So उसको cross करने के लिए उसको lipid loving होना पड़ेगा. That's why those molecules are going to be hydrophobic in nature, or they can be also small gas molecules. ठीक है? So those doesn't need any polarity. They can just cross. Now, if suppose they are not hydrophobic in nature, if suppose they are hydrophilic in nature, तो क्या हो सकता है? Second scenario में, what you can see is that on the plasma membrane, you can have the receptors present. Now, to these receptors, the proteins can come or the signals can come and bind. So this is also another way of cell-cell signaling. So this, all these different types of signaling pathways we are going to study in the upcoming lectures. So modes of cell signaling. So either it can be from the direct interaction of a cell with its neighbor. So इसको कहते हैं हम direct cell to cell signaling, ठीक है? And mainly this happens in many scenario, like for example when your MHC cells are expressing, when they are interacting with the T cell receptors, B cell receptors, right? So all this will be, that is like differently dealt in the immunology concepts. or it can be from the action of the secreted signaling molecules. So signaling via such direct cell interactions plays critical role in regulating the many interactions between different types of cells. एक example मैं आपको दे सकती हूँ in like previous lectures we talked about the acetylcholine receptors. तो acetylcholine आपके nearby synaptic presynaptic cell से release होता है. It comes to the it comes into the synaptic cleft and then it goes and binds to the your postsynaptic cell, right? So वहां पे आपका acetylcholine goes and it goes interacts and polarizes the cell. So that is one scenario where you can talk about direct cell signaling. Okay, so these interactions between different types of cells that take place during the embryonic development as well as in the maintenance of the adult tissues. So let's talk about different modes of signaling. So what are the different modes of signaling? So in this lecture, we are going to talk about the three different modes of signaling, that is endocrine, autocrine and paracrine signaling. Okay, so first let's talk about the endocrine signaling. So in endocrine signaling, the signaling molecules, for example, let us say that hormones are secreted by the specialized endocrine cells. इसलिए इसको हम endocrine signaling भी बोलते हैं, and they are carried through the circulation to act on the target cell at distant body sites. इसका मतलब क्या? In this way, in this case, we are going to use the circulatory system, like with the help of the blood circulation system, we are going to transport hormones from one place to the other. For example, steroid hormone estrogen, which is produced by the ovaries, it stimulates the development and maintenance of the female reproductive system and the secondary sex characteristics. Okay, so this is one example. And guys, examples are important in order to understand the different modes of the cell signaling. Okay, second one है paracrine signaling, so which is the molecules are released by one cell and acts on the neighboring cells. तो यानी कि आसपास पड़ोस में ही है. Example, the action of neurotransmitters in carrying signals between the nerve cells at the synapse. So here you can talk about the acetylcholine receptors. Then comes the autocrine. Autocrine नाम से ही आपको समझ में आना चाहिए कि that it is going to signal itself. अपने आप के लिए ही ये सिग्नल प्रोड्यूस कर रहा है, so that it can produce more. It's like a positive feedback. ठीक है? So in autocrine signaling, some cells respond to signaling molecules that they themselves produce. For example, the response of cells of the vertebrate immune system to foreign antigens. Certain types of T lymphocytes, they respond to antigenic stimulation by synthesizing a growth factor. Now that growth factor is going to derive its own proliferation and hence increasing the number of the responsive T lymphocytes and amplifying the immune response. For example, a cancer cell produces a growth factor to which it also responds, thereby continuously driving its own unregulated proliferation. इसलिए we cannot target growth factor or production of growth factor in order to cure cancer, क्योंकि cancer cells, they themselves produce their own growth factor and that growth factor is helping in proliferation of these cells. ठीक है? So that's why we cannot target the growth factors in the case of cancer treatment. Now talking about steroid hormones and the nuclear receptor superfamily, sorry. So they uses intracellular proteins for signaling. Now, क्यों intracellular proteins ही use करता है? Guys, you need to understand that whenever you study anything, just question yourself a lot. So these are steroid hormones. So of course, they are going to be hydrophobic in nature. And just now I have mentioned that only the hydrophobic molecules are going to pass through the plasma membrane or the nuclear membrane. And hence they need intracellular proteins for the signaling so that they can bind and carry out the signaling cascade. Okay? So these intracellular receptors respond to small hydrophobic signaling molecules that are able to diffuse across the plasma membrane. Okay, as just now I mentioned. For example, steroid hormones like thyroid hormone, vitamin D3, retinoic acid. This is also your vitamin A. Now, these steroid hormones like including testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, and the corticosteroids, they all are synthesized from the cholesterol. And that's why you also need cholesterol in your body. Okay. So cholesterol is not bad. Excess of cholesterol is bad. Testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone, they are the sex steroids which are produced by the gonads. So either the ovaries or the testes. The corticosteroids, including glucocorticoids, and are produced by the adrenal gland. They act on variety of cells to stimulate the production of the glucose. Now, when this is required, when you don't have the intake of glucose and you need gluconeogenesis, so that time your glucocorticoids are acting. देखा तो कैसे है, whenever we study cell bio, you can also see that the role played by the biochemistry portion and the mole bio. So इसलिए bio you cannot categorize into different subjects. Everything is together. Okay, moving on. So these are the different hormone structures: testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, cortisol. You can see that everything has been derived from the cholesterol structure. Then you have got the thyroid hormone. So here we can talk about the T3 and T4, T3 and T4. That is your thyroxine, and the other one I just forgot the name. Yeah. Then the thyroid hormones are there. Then vitamin D3 and the retinoic acid. Okay, guys, don't worry. You don't have to study the structure, but if you could remember the cholesterol structure, that will be more than enough, because then it is easy, because testosterone you have got the 1-OH and the keto group. Estradiol, so you have got the 2-OH group, and then progesterone 1 keto group, and then methyl and the the ester group is there. So if you can remember the structure of the cholesterol, then it becomes easy to remember the structure of the sex hormones also. ठीक है, क्योंकि कभी भी पूछ सकते हैं कि कौन सा मिथाइल ग्रुप कौन से रिंग स्ट्रक्चर में और which carbon number it is present. So such questions can be asked. So thyroid hormone is synthesized from the tyrosine in the thyroid gland, and it plays important role in the development and regulation of metabolism. Right. So you know that what happens if you don't have the proper iodine, what happens? You get the goiter. Your thyroid glands will actually swell. Right. So vitamin D3 regulates calcium metabolism and the bone growth. So you know milk and vitamin D3 directly from the sunlight. It is important for your body growth. Retinoic acid and the related compounds like retinoids, they are synthesized from the vitamin A, which also plays important roles in vertebrate development. So not only for your eyes, but also for your embryonic development, the retinoic acid is required. Now, because of the hydrophobic character, they are able to diffuse across the plasma membrane very easily. Okay. So the passage of thyroid hormones across the plasma membrane, it is facilitated by the carrier proteins. So this we have already discussed in the previous lectures, like what are the carrier proteins and how exactly it's being done. So just let us revise. So you have got the plasma membrane. So you have got the inner and outer. Then you have got the carrier proteins also, जो आपके यहाँ पे present रहेंगे. So your steroid hormones comes and binds, and then what happens? They actually flip. They come in this side, and you can see your hormones are actually transported from the outside to the inside. Okay. So once inside the cell, these steroids, thyroid hormone, or the vitamin D3, retinoic acid, they all bind to the intracellular receptors, which are expressed by the hormonally responsive target cells. These receptors, they belong to the family of proteins known as nuclear receptor superfamily. इसका मतलब क्या? These hormones are going to be taken inside the nucleus, ठीक है? And they might act as the transcription factors, because they might have the domains for the ligand binding, DNA binding, and the transcriptional activation. So ligand binding regulates the function as activators or repressors for the target genes, so that the steroid hormones and related molecules directly regulate gene expression. अब आपको यहाँ पे एक चीज ये याद रखना है, whenever you talk about steroid hormones, ठीक है, or the steroid signals, they are going to be taken inside the nucleus, and directly it is going to affect your gene expression. So either it is going to increase or it is going to repress depending on the condition. Okay, so this is the important take point from this slide. Okay, so this is one example of the glucocorticoid action. So now you have got the glucocorticoid over here, right? And see, so it is able to pass the plasma membrane. Then it goes and binds to the receptor. So what is the receptor? It is inactive glucocorticoid receptor. Now it is inactive because it is still bound with the HSP90. Now what are HSP90? They are the chaperones. Okay. Now glucocorticoid binding, it is going to displace the receptor from the HSP90 and it will allow the formation of the dimer. तो अभी क्या यहाँ पे single है, तो जैसे ही यहाँ पे glucocorticoid, the hormone binding takes place, it is going to form the dimer. Now once this dimer is being formed with the help of the important, the proteins, right? We have talked about this in the previous lectures. So importance will recruit these dimer, it will take inside the nucleus. Okay. Now the activated receptors will translocate to the nucleus. It will go and bind to the DNA. Okay. And it will associate with the co-activators and it is going to activate your HAT to stimulate the transcription of the target genes. Now यहाँ पे HAT क्यों चाहिए आपको? As you remember, HAT is your histone acetyl transferase. So when this acetylation is done, so what happens? Guys, you have to remember, we have done in the Watson summary series, right? So HAT क्या करता है? HAT is going to add the acetyl group. So acetyl group is nothing but your negative charge. So when you modify the histone tails with the acetyl group, what happens? This gives the negative charge, and the histone proteins are then dissociated from the negatively charged DNA backbone. अब क्या हो गया? DNA आपका open हो गया from the nucleosome. Now it is available to carry out the transcription of the genes. ठीक है? इसलिए आपने HAT को activate किया है, ठीक है, with the help of the glucocorticoid. So you can see how the signaling is happening. Glucocorticoid का काम क्या है? In order to start the gene expression for the enzymes which is required for the synthesis of the glucose. For example, when there is a need for the glucose, so we need the enzymes which is going to help in the gluconeogenesis. ठीक है? So glucocorticoid आएगा, it will pass the plasma membrane and it will go and bind to the receptor. So the receptor is inactive because of the association with the HSP90. So when this hormone goes and binds to the receptor, there is a conformational change. It displaces the HSP90 and forms a dimer. Now this dimer is recruited inside the nucleus with the help of the important and activates the co-activators and the HAT. HAT is a histone acetyl transferase which is going to add or modify the histone tails. Hence, the nucleosome will get open up. And your DNA is now exposed. The sequences are exposed so that the transcription of the genes can take place. Okay? So I hope this is clear. Okay, this pathway is clear and how exactly the steroid hormones are acting or carrying out the signaling. Okay, now what happens in the absence of the hormones? Okay, so this is the another example where we are talking about the different protein, different different thyroid hormones. So thyroid hormone receptor binds DNA in either the presence or absence of the hormones. So you can see that in the case of the hormones, the HDAC, that the histone deacetyl transferase. Okay, so this enzyme is there. It is bound with the thyroid hormone receptor. Okay, so however, hormone binding changes the receptor form, a repressor to an activator of the target gene expression. Gene transcription. So in the absence of hormone, the receptor associates with the co-repressors with the histone deacetylase activity. Now, when the hormones are added, what happens? It goes and activates the HAT. ठीक है, तो अब पहले deacetylase है, अभी acetylase है, and then it is going to increase the activity, so that what will happen, the nucleosome will get open up and the transcription will start or it will be activated. Okay, so this is just nothing like how the different hormones are acting on the receptors. So that's all for today's, guys, and there are many pathways which we are going to complete in this Cooper series. So there are like PI3 pathways is there, JAK-STAT pathway is there, mTOR pathway is there, right? So many pathways are there which we are going to talk in this lecture series. So stay tuned with the Excelsior Academy and keep studying with us. And all the best for your exam. So if any doubts are there, please guys let me know through your comment section. If not able to comment in the YouTube channel, then you can join me in the Telegram channel by the name Excelsior Academy. Many guys are asking the questions over there and I'm really happy to answer anything for you. So thank you. If you like the video, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't done yet, and also share with your friend circle. So spread the word and yeah, take care. Stay safe.